the total value or price per brand, per product. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, alright, but before we start getting the total number and the total price, let's count the number of items or products that we have first. So how are we going to count? Say if we have, so for this one we actually have 11 items, but using formulas or functions will help you, especially if there are a lot of items included on your Excel file. Say if we have like thousands and thousands, or we have a long list of items. So that's the function count will help us. Anyway, let's do that. So without checking what's on the lower right portion of Excel and to be able to get the value, any changes, because you know when you do the highlight and all that, okay, you get the total count, the sum and the average, but you do not store that particular value or result anywhere in Excel. So at least we'll have to put in that value inside a cell for us to have. Okay, so let's use count. So if you notice, we have count and count A. So let's try to use count and we'll see the difference later on. Count counts the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. So how are we going to use this? Just, of course, select our range, the range that our Excel will count. And then the next one is count A. Count A counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. So let's see, are we going to get the same result? We did. How about count blank? What's the use for this one? Counts the number of empty cells in a specified range of cells. Okay? So we are going to use the same range for this one. Okay, so it gives us a 0 value. Why? Because our range, this is the range that we have, and all of the cells inside this range have values. So that's why it returns 0. But if, say, we remove or we make 1 as blank, enter, notice the values changed. So of course it counted the blank as 1 because we have 1 from that range, and then our values here changed. Count A technically counts the number of cells that are not empty, but since this one is empty, then it only counted 10 out of the 11 cells that we have here. And then for this one, it counts the number of cells that has a number value. So since we have 1 blank, and so it only counted 10 cells. Now what's the difference of count and count A? So as we mentioned earlier, count A counts the number of not empty cell. So here, so if the value of this cell is a text, see, our values here change. Now this one, since it's counting the blank cell on the range and there's no more blank cell here, it returned to 0. Now for this one, it counted all of the cells because all are not empty. There are values inside the cells, inside the cell for this range. And for this one, it still is showing 10 because it counted 10 cells has a number value. Because this one is not a number, that's why it did not count this particular cell. So that's the difference of count A and count blank. Alright. Okay, so let's move on. How about for this one? So we have 11 products or 11 items. I want to get the total price of this 11 products. Then we're going to we can actually use like selecting the cell and then using the mathematical symbol plus, and then the next cell and then plus again. We can do that. But of course, it's very tedious to do that because we'll have to select it one by one. So since we have functions of adding values, then let's just use that, which is sum. So sum, and then we'll just have to select the range and enter. Automatically, it gives us the total value of the range that we've selected. So it says here it's $41 for all of the 11 items or 11 products. Now, let's move on. And then I also want to get the total number of bananas in brand A, brand B, and C, and then so on. We're going to use COUNTIFS. Why are we going to use COUNTIFS? Because we have 2 or more criteria or 2 or more conditions to meet to be able to get the value of what. So COUNTIFS counts the number of cells specified by a given set of conditions or criteria. So what's our first criteria? Well, for COUNTIFS, it doesn't really matter it does not impact the order of the criteria, does not impact the value of your formula or the result of your formula. Let's do that. So COUNTIFS, my first criteria is for Excel to look for the product, and for this one it's apple. So we lock the range because we are going to use the same formula across this particular table. Our criteria is apple, so we're looking for apple, and later on we're going to drag it. So we are going to lock our row reference. And the second criteria is the brand. So this is the brand, and we are looking for, so let's lock it first, and we're looking for brand A, which is in F16. And since we are going to lock it later on, we'll have to, or drag it later on, we'll have to lock our column reference. And then can close it by using closing parentheses, or just, and now it's a time to drag so we don't have to retype our formula, and drag it. So it says here I have, for brand A, I have 1 apple, 2 bananas, and 1 orange. For brand B, I have 2 apples, 1 banana, and 1 orange. For brand C, I have 1 apple, 1 banana, and no orange, or 0 orange. So how do we know that it's correct? We can, using the table, the original table that we have, we can put in a data filter and see that. Let's just check how many bananas are there in brand A. So brand A, and see 1, 2. So we're correct. I mean, the values are correct from the formula. So that's how to use COUNTIFS. Now let's exchange, or because we have 2 conditions here, and as mentioned earlier, the order of your criteria does not affect the value of your formula, because the system or Excel will still calculate that or consider that. So what I'm going to do is because we just want to prove that regardless of the order, the values will still be the same. So I'll be moving this value to, and this will be our second criteria, and that will be our first criteria. And let's just make sure that we don't have any unnecessary character under formula, and let's enter. Okay, I still get the same value, which is 1. Now let me drag it. It's still the same. And drag it. It's still the same. Okay, let's do the second function, which is SUMIFS. Now, why are we going to use SUMIFS? Because my requirement earlier is I want to get the total price per product, per brand. So I want to see how much brand A with product apple costs. So how for like this one, for brand B with 2 apples, so how much will the total cost be? Okay, so let's do that. So that's equal sign and SUMIFS. So it's the same thing. We are going to have more than two or more than one criteria, that's why we are going to use SUMIFS. So for SUMIFS, the first parameter is to select the range of the cells that you're going to add. So which column are we going to add? It's the price, so we have to select this range. And then of course, we are going to lock it. Remember to always lock it because we are dragging or reusing our formula to the right and down. Okay, then let's select then our first range for our first criteria. So here we're going to look for the product first, lock it, and what are we looking for? That particular product. Okay. And we are going to lock our row reference. Then our second criteria is the brand. Lock it. And what's our brand here? It should be F21. And we are going to lock our column reference. And then of course, let's enter. Oops, forgot to select. So we've selected earlier, but it got removed. Because remember, you always remember to include or type in your comma when you're selecting the next parameter. Okay, and then for this one, F21. All right, and enter. So we have $7. Let's drag it to the right. $7, $3, okay, and drag it down. Okay, so this one is empty because that's 0. So how we're going to check? So it's here, we'll base it on the first table that we filled out earlier. So we have 2 bananas in brand A, and according to our table here for the total price, it's $7. So two bananas with brand A. So let's see. Bananas. Okay, so that's $1 and $6. So that's $7 total. So our value for the total price is $7. So it's correct. Okay, so that's how you use COUNTIFS and SUMIFS. And as well as for today's video, we also differentiated count A, and count blank. So now, just to do a recap, count is used when we want to count the number or count the cells which has a number value. If we're going to use count A, if you want to count the number of cells that are not empty, and count blank is basically we want to count the number of cells that are empty or blank. Okay, and then sum, we are using the sum function for us to add the values of the cell or the range that we have selected. The COUNTIFS and the SUMIFS, it's been thoroughly explained on our previous videos.